Your rig's most valuable data isn't coming from a sensor, it's not coming from a machine, it's actually coming from your drilling crew. Most investment into AI is focused on machine-generated data. However, crew-generated data is what's going to unlock the hidden potential of your drilling crew, and today we're going to talk about how. Hello world, hello America, hello Texas. My name is Brandon Lalonde and I am the host of the Quantum Mechanics podcast. I'm a former roughneck, a policy analyst, a writer, 15 years in the oil and gas industry, specifically with drilling contractors. And today we're going to talk about something that's very exciting. It's the advancement of data within the drilling contractor industry. And what we're going to be looking at specifically is machine generated data versus human generated data. Now, those definitions are something you'll find in the taxonomy or the dictionary of AI, artificial intelligence. But as we develop AI for the drilling industry, we really are honing in on something much more specific than just human-generated data, okay? Something that I call crew-generated data. There's a differentiation between what we do on the rig and the data that we create, those records of what actually happened, versus machine-generated data, which are sensors, right, from and within machinery. And those are two very different things. So I want to talk about that today because here at Quantum Mechanics, right, we are a data intelligence platform. We aggregate human-generated data, crew-generated data. We aggregate it, centralize it, and then we wrap it with AI to allow the drilling contractor organization to surface their data in seconds in a way that can give them a really empowering view over the data. Now, first and foremost, I want to talk about crew-generated data. Now, this is going to encompass inspections, incidents, investigations, corrective actions, root cause analysis, work orders. These are items that people generate on the rig to get things done. Okay, so for example, preventive maintenance inspections, right? Someone, a crew hand, a motor hand, a floor hand, the derrick hand, maybe even the driller, maybe even the rig manager in some cases, they're out there performing daily, weekly, monthly inspections. And then you have technicians that are doing the technical level. And then let's say there's a depot level, a remanufacture, right? The life cycle of that asset is guided by people, by our team to extend the life of that asset. That is crew generated data, those inspection records. And then the corrective actions that come when you find something that may not be correct with your piece of equipment. Well, that corrective action has to be identified by the crew. It has to be identified and then assigned to someone else who then goes on their mission to fix that record, to fix that physical asset, and to fulfill the record that was created by our crews. Same thing with incidents, right? If there's a near hit or a near miss, or if something actually happens on the rig, we have to record that. That's crew generated data. And that is profound. Those are profound points of record because it allows us to predict, it allows us to hone in and get better at our processes, saying, hey, we've identified this, let's react and let's put something in place to make the condition of what's happening on the rig better. Let's make our processes just iron, right? So they don't fail and we keep people safe. We extend equipment life, less downtime. We make our customers happy. And the whole ecosystem, if we do that, is much better for it. So that's the value of crew generated data. It's not just humans, right? In the world of AI, there is almost like humans are kind of outside entities, right, of this new thing that's coming forth. But in fact, humans are the shepherds of what AI is. I mean, we are the ones that are projecting our likeness unto it, right? And it is an aggregation of humans. But in the context of the drilling industry, we call it crew generated data. And so quantum mechanics is putting the flag in the ground for that term because our crews are extremely important. Our people are the most important thing that we have in the drilling contractor sector. And so identifying them as the crew generated data, I think, is super important because words and what we call things are very important, especially at the onset of this new this uncharted territory with artificial intelligence in the drilling industry. So, crew generated data, machine generated data. Machine data is emitted by instruments. Most of that is down in the hole, in the well. Uh, Crew data is authored by people, right? Equipment, safety, corrective actions, root cause, that type of information. Now, beyond just the definitions here, I want to talk about just the state of the drilling industry and where a lot of this investment is going. And the easy way to, I think, implement this, right, for let's just say engineers, software engineers, there's a lot of engineers in the drilling industry. Well, it's to apply it to drilling, right? Drilling optimization, stuff that's happening in the well. And that's where you're seeing a lot of the investment. I would say probably 95% focus is going to be on the drilling process downhole. Now, I am seeing some drilling contractors that are implementing sensor-based AI in like mud pumps. And then now they're moving that to different assets. But again, that's machine generated data. And so my thesis for quantum mechanics is to take the crew generated data and to provide amazing, profound data insights for drilling contractors. And so we are pioneering that today, which is why it's so important to get our message out to the drilling contractors, because I call it AI on training wheels. And I call it that because it doesn't have to be so complex. You do not need engineers to aggregate your data and to develop a language model or an agent to help you gain insight to your data. You just don't need it. We've done that. Um, and so there's a saying, keep it simple, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Well, I just call it AI on training wheels because the operators, they're focusing on what's happening in the well. We need to be focusing on what's happening on the rig, right? They're going to drive that investment, and then we are going to then execute, right, what their specifications are for the well and how they want to drill the well. But in the meantime, we still have roughnecks and we're in the iron and the people business. And so let's take that data and let's utilize AI as an effective tool to make really good decisions about our people and our equipment. So my pushback would be that we need to be focusing on the people in this AI revolution, you could say, but we don't need to redefine what we're already doing. In fact, a uh, any type of implementation of AI should fit the current processes that you have, the hierarchical processes of communication within the organization. It should already fit that. You already have that established. You shouldn't have to change everything that you're doing because AI is here. In fact, you should use it like AI on training wheels and plug it in where you can gain some really valuable insights to your data. And I keep saying that because it is so important. And what we've developed at quantum mechanics is just unbelievable because you get reports, you get behavioral insights, cross modular behavioral insights. So if you've got, let's just say we're talking about the Permian Basin region, and you have your investigations, right? So you have your uh, investigations and incidents module, right? So your incident management module, you have your preventive maintenance inspection module, you have your corrective actions module. Well, what QuantiX is the name of our agent. What QuantiX can do is it can look cross modularly and surface behavioral patterns for you to then see, and and it does it in seconds. So then it helps when we're dealing with people. We are oftentimes looking at behaviors. Uh, Behaviors give us an insight to what the root cause is for certain things that are happening, right? We are we are we're humans. We're people. We behave in certain ways. We are emotional, right? We don't always make the right decisions, but in many cases, most people want to do the right thing. But we're all so different, and so behavioral insight is, I think, key in understanding data, the metadata within the data that's based off of human behaviors, and then being able to move forward and say, okay, well, this is the next step. But I would not have known about those behavioral trends without QuantiX AI. Or I would have to go off of lots of experience, right? To say, well, I know this person, I know this drilling superintendent likes to do this, this, and this. So that's the insight that I'm getting to make a decision versus what QuantiX does is looking at behaviors based off of outcomes from the data records that we enter in. So it's a pretty fascinating model. And at the end of the day, people in the organization are going to make the decisions. So the role that Quantix plays within the quantum mechanics platform, it's passive, right? It's surfacing it out, bringing it forward for you to make decisions. Crew generated data. So moving into beyond just where investment is going and where the drilling industry is going, where we think it should go into crew generated data, um, a lot of what's happening out in the rigs is still paper based. You're still getting a lot of like PDFs and things like that. What our platform does, it digitizes everything. So you can enter these records in on a tablet. You can enter them in on a phone or a computer, right, on the rig as they happen, right? So someone goes out to do their top drive inspection. You have rig service. You do your top drive inspection. You go back into the driller's cabin, and then you fill out on the computer or on a tablet the inspection findings. Right, so it's still very simple, but then it goes directly in the system right away. You're not having to print out paperwork or work aids, little laminated work aids that get muddy and they get broken, the little binders break, and now you've got zip ties on them, and so for it being something that's digitized is actually very helpful. And then your rig manager doesn't have all of these filing cabinets full of paperwork. They don't have an added expense for ink, not as much ink, paper, things like that. So there's other benefits to it as well. But jumping back into the crew generated data. The aviation industry has terminology very similar to this. And the aviation industry is like they are the leaders essentially in sustainable processes with maintenance and incidents. Because if you have a mistake, then it may happen in air and it can be catastrophic. Essentially, those in that industry, minor mistakes and gaps in processes can lead to really dire outcomes. And so the aviation industry historically has been great at reducing that, ensuring that their processes are really solid. But the aviation industry, they have terminology very similar, right? Where of course they have, machine and performance data, but they also have a lot of uh, crew event logs, right? So they do have crew uh, or yeah, crew generated data as well. Now, I'd like to talk about beyond just what we do for, the data side. One of our missions, and my mission has been historically since I was 2010 on the rigs, was to try to make things better for the people on the rigs. When I first broke out, I had a fantastic crew, and they taught me a lot, and that led me to writing about them. I had a blog called Roughneck Forum Magazine for a while. And it was online. And one of the things I wanted to do was amplify a message to improve the condition of the Roughnecks. And that still resonates today in quantum mechanics because we can utilize technology that is prevalent now and is growing. We can leverage that to make things better for the roughneck as well, and the support staff that orbit the rig. And actually, we have a responsibility to do that, I believe, which is one of the driving forces behind quantum mechanics. Let's make things better. And I believe that it does that, especially for data transparency, ease of entry of data, and it really helps from the C-suite all the way down to the person entering the data into the system. But beyond just, so I got a question this past week. Well, does quantum mechanics apply to other aspects of the oil and gas industry and not just drilling contractors? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes, it does. And because at the end of the day, we have equipment, we've got people. All right. And I want to look at the website real quick and just go over some of the industries that quantum mechanics is applicable to. So let's jump into, here we are. So this is the quantum mechanics, quantum-mechanics.com, mechanics with an X. Let me pull up the screen here. Now, if you haven't been, there are some great visuals of what the platform looks like and what your interface would look like with us. So the first one is going to be your dashboard. This right here is going to be what a crew hand would be entering in for their preventive maintenance inspections. And then we have our QuantiX platform here where you can directly talk and engage and query the QuantiX agent. And here's some different modules that we have. One of them that I am also developing right now is going to be the management of change and modification module. So we have our equipment registry, digital inspections, our work orders, corrective actions, incident management, and our analytics dashboard. Okay. The ESPN, the Sports Center of data for human crew generated data. I have value propositions for rig manager, field technician, HSE director, and operations VP. But here we go. I'm going to zoom in here because we also, in addition to land drilling, quantum mechanics applies to offshore drilling, well servicing and workover, coiled tubing, wireline, casing, tubular running, fracking crews, pressure pumping, oil refining, manufacturing, machine shops. In fact, I have talked to two really big oil field manufacturers that found a lot of value in the corrective work order module that we have, in addition to the incident management module. One of the big things with on the manufacturing side is you have work orders that flow through the system, but you're uploading PDFs, scanning them into the work order, and then there's no automation within the work order, right? Uh, the inspections live outside the work order, and you have to upload it. You don't know who is where in the work order, so you have to make calls across the shop try to get an update on it. Whereas in our system, it tracks who's doing what. The inspections are held within the work order, whether it's like remanufacture or um, you know, MPI, all of that is within the work order. So you're not having to run around and chase information all over the place, which is a huge improvement for some of the biggest manufacturers in North America. It's unbelievable, but I have had conversations and I've developed our work order process around some of the issues that these manufacturers are experiencing. Heavy equipment fleets, pipeline and midstream, as well as construction. So I did talk with someone about the use case for pipeline, and absolutely, piping as well, just tubulars in general. Quantum mechanics applies to all of them. My beachhead is land drilling because that's where I got my. I spent 15 years working with drilling contractors, so that's where I've developed a beachhead, right, an entry point for this software for these capabilities. But they also apply to many different ones. It's very malleable in terms of what we can do to match your processes, to match your organizational hierarchy for, let's just say, automated emails, corrective actions, investigation, signing investigation teams. All of that can be done uh, with a little bit of information on how your organization works and how you want to see certain things assigned. So I wanted to address that because it was a question, and I think it's worth noting that at the end of the day, crew generated data is something that basically we all generate, whether it's a crew up in Houston at corporate, right? Or in the Permian Basin at your regional office, right? That includes HR, that includes accounting, that is your crew. And that crew can still generate incidents, right? Someone gets in a fender bender and it's a company vehicle. Believe me, that happened to me in Houston. Well, and believe it or not, we had just rolled out the incident management system for this company. And I'm driving off on 45 and someone rear ends me. And after having worked on developing the incident management system, I was the first one to enter in. That was the first incident for the whole company, was a fender bender for me. So I was like, this is surreal, kind of embarrassing, but kind of not. And you know what? There was an investigation. I had to upload paperwork. There was root cause analysis on my driving, right? How I could have avoided it. And and so all of those things are really industry agnostic. And all of those types of features are within quantum mechanics. So this is just a little bit about me. 15 years in the oil and gas industry. I've written comprehensive maintenance programs all the way to comprehensive rig audits. I've done SharePoint. I rolled out a technical services publication suite, management of change, job site modifications, matrices. Basically, every type of document you can think of, I have written. So I've seen a lot. And again, one of my strengths and one of the things I want to see is that we can put pen to paper and make things better for what's going on out on the rigs. And that's why I built quantum mechanics, is to fix some of the things that I see can be improved. Now, I'm looking at the bigs. I'm looking at Neighbors, Patterson, H&P, Ensign. They already have a lot of these systems in place, and I know that. But where I think quantum mechanics really brings value is for those drilling contractors that have like 1 to 30 rigs, right? So from the big E's to the independence contract drilling and everywhere in between, because you're not having to pay an arm and a leg for this service, right? It's a subscription model service. And so I want to just bring up the pricing because it's super important to know that if you were going to roll something out with Oracle, SAP, SAI Global, any of these companies, an enterprise rollout is not, well, it's not inexpensive, right? Ours is not inexpensive, but it is actually built for the smaller contractors to participate in this type of technology. And so there's three levels. You have Surface Link, Intermediate Plus, and Production X. Now, these are going to be per month by rig, very reasonably priced. You get 24/7 support, training, and essentially, you get a massive library of um, of historical understanding of the oil and gas industry with me and my team. Uh, and we have different plans. So this basically just outlines what you're getting for each. And at the end of the day, like if you look at what all of the expenses are on the overhead for running a small drilling company, right? Uh, it's not cheap, and there's a lot of, you can call them independently owned, or I like to call them mom and pop, because my wife owns restaurants and they're mom and pop, and I help with that. But it's small restaurants, independently owned, and these smaller drilling contractors are also kind of like, they're kind of like that. And so they don't get these massive capital budgets that's backed by an IPO and shareholders and things like that. No, every single dollar counts. And I definitely understand that. And so, in terms of our pricing, we make it easy entry, right? Gain that value. And then what you do is you basically accelerate into the future with your data and get something that all of these other big companies have invested millions of dollars in. And this is at your fingertips. And how do I know that? Because I've built these things before for these huge drilling uh, contractors. So it's a fantastic system, and again, it's centered around your people. It's centered around the crew generated data, and that excites me the most, is because you know when you look at when you look at AI and you look at this new machine uh, perspective of the future, right? They call it transhumanism, or the fourth industrial revolution, is what the World Economic Forum calls it, right? Where do we go? People. What jobs are we going to have? And where is the focus on our future, our collective future as humanity? And so if you take a humanistic first approach to the future of technology, then it really can take us wherever we want to go as a civilization, as a species. And I'm not saying that quantum mechanics is like that, but that is the focus that I would like to import technology into, is to uplifting people. And I think that we really do that. So I would love to have conversations, if you're a drilling contractor, if you're in like oil and gas or construction, and you're wanting to really up your game in terms of your data. I can uh, I can definitely help you with that with quantum mechanics, and I think that this is something that you should at least take a look at. Now, we're getting involved. We are new members of IADC, and I am on the Advanced Rig Technology Committee helping write this new paper for drilling contractors on AI, starting with definitions, starting with value props for people involved um, in drilling, and where does it go from here. So it's an exciting project. Glad to be a part of that, and so they also have something called Spark Tank, which is a kind of like a Shark Tank. IADC has, where companies come and they pitch to tech gurus, software gurus, system gurus in the drilling contractor space. I missed the deadline, but I am going to do that in the future. I hope. I've contacted them. I've expressed interest to pitch. There's nothing like a good pitch, right? An elevator pitch. You got 15 seconds, go. Now, in this case, we would have 15 minutes, but I'm excited about where things are going and excited to be involved with IADC. And I would be excited to have a conversation and just talk about where we want things to go. If this can help, great. If not, then I will give you the best advice that I can to help you out. I also do it individual documents, right? If you need an Excel document that does this, this, and this, I'd be like, well, I can give you a whole platform, but if you're not looking for that, I can definitely help on an ad hoc basis because that's just what we do. We help each other out and we uplift each other in the industry. We try to make things better for what matters most, which is our people, our equipment, our contracts, our customers, right? And the proliferation of drilling into the future. We have such a pivotal role in society. The extraction process is just so fundamental that people forget about. It's like you see a hamburger, well, I see a hamburger. I don't see every single step that went into making that. The hamburger is the end product, right? People see a gas pump. They don't see what actually comes out of it unless like they're shaking it and then some falls out. They can smell it, but they don't really see it. But what we do is we are a part of that amazing process of these extracting oil out of the ground, extracting natural gas, and turning into something that is useful in the world that is going to propel us even further into the future, no matter what anyone says. That is for certain. So I've had a really fun time on this podcast, not going to make it too long, but I'm excited about crew generated data and planting the flag and saying that is what we're focusing on here at Quantum Mechanics and what we should be focusing on and the for drilling contractors for sure. I actually said that. It was a IADC meeting in March, and I got up and I addressed the panel, and there was someone from Precision who are doing some really cool things with sensor AI and mud pumps. Um, but one of the questions was, where do we enter in? How do we implement artificial intelligence into our current processes? And I basically said to them and posed this to them with a hope that we would do this, right? I'm kind of nudging them. I didn't I did not shamelessly plug quantum mechanics, but I was wearing a shirt that had a QR code to my business card. It said AI block, AI something on it. And I recommended, well, instead of spending all of this money to get sensors put in everything and then you're going to have to parse that data, it's like, well, we should focus on the people and bring that investment from downhole up to the rig floor, right? Invest in it so it helps our people. And that's what I said then. And I believe that more than ever now, uh, because it's just the right thing to do. And it for me, it seems like a layup. We should all be doing it. So, one more thing before we close off. This is my podcast. I can kind of just ramble. It's fun. This is an awesome outlet, podcasting. If you haven't tried it, I would recommend that you try it. Uh, but I made these signs, and I have one since we're posing crew generated data versus machine generated data, what is recorded versus what is emitted right through sensors. My parents, they let me watch Terminator when I was very young, when I was, probably too young, like 5 years old. And the Terminator movies were pretty fascinating. They were almost like an omen or a warning of what uh, what may happen in the future with Skynet going live, and then you have, of course, the Cyberdyne company that found the technology that came from the future after the machine was destroyed after chasing Sarah Connor. And I forget, was his name Kyle from the future? Doesn't matter. But so I have this sign, and it's to kind of make things a little lighter. I know people have distrust. There's a distrust over AI and its accuracy. Just at a fundamental level, it's like, well, how is this accurate? Well, we're accurate. Our AI is accurate because it's specifically based off of your data, right? So if you have good data coming in, right, which most do for investigations and their, PM inspections, things like that, well, then the output's going to be accurate. It's not completely deterministic. It's not just an algorithm that sits there because it is cross modular and it can give you insight. So it's not completely deterministic, but there is a distrust, and I think fairly there is a hesitancy, a healthy hesitancy within the oil and gas industry, specifically for drillers. But I made this sign, and let me pull it up for you right here. Here it is: Skynet won't launch from safety and maintenance data. Okay. I made the Skynet red, kind of like the menacing red of the machine's eye. And then this one is from a different movie, Soylent Green. Okay, AI's people. I just thought it was kind of funny. The Charlton Heston scene is awesome, very memorable. My wife hadn't watched it, so I made her watch Soylent Green. Dystopia, but it's not all dystopic. That's supposed to be comedy. I think it's kind of funny because AI essentially, I think, is going to be a big, a tool that we can use to launch ourselves into the stars. But you know, at the end of the day, we're dealing with safety, we're dealing with maintenance, we're dealing with people, and we love our people. And we can utilize AI as a tool to help us uh, manage people and and give them tools to make things better for them out on the rig. So follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Okay, it's Quantum Mechanics at Quantum Mechanics, and follow me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect, collaborate, and as well like, comment, and share below. All right, give us a like, and be a part of what we're doing to make things better into the future. We would love to give a demo. Now, I am Brandon Lalonde of the Quantum Mechanics podcast, saying thank you to the world, to the international drilling industry. Thank you to America, the North American drilling industry. Thank you to Texas, right? I'm out of San Antonio, nestled between the Permian Basin and the Eagleford Shale. And thanks to all of you out there for tuning in. Signing off, Brandon Lalonde of the Quantum Mechanics podcast. We'll see you next episode. Bye.